Summer. You've caught me here on the beach, and I'm reading a book on this beach. And what book is that? Well, it's our big summer read, The Stand by Stephen King, and it's a big book. So I'm probably going to be sitting here on this beach for quite a while, but that's okay with me because it's been a good book so far. Today we're going to check in with what we're calling part 1. It's chapters 1 through 35. It's roughly the first 300 pages of the book. Jason Crockett is joining me, and we have a lot of things to talk about. We're going to talk about the relevancy of what we've read so far to things that are going on today in 2025. We're going to talk about things that happened during COVID-19, the pandemic, just how this book has remained its relevancy. It was written in 1978 and it's still remaining relevant today. We're going to talk about characterization, who are our favorite characters, things we've noticed about these characters, who's the protagonist. We're just doing a check-in here where we are looking back through what we've read for our big summer read. Hopefully you're following along. If you're not and you want to, then hop on in. You've got plenty of time. We're going to do more episodes throughout the summer, and we're also going to do one culminating episode at the end of summer or early days of fall, however it lands, however we get finished with this book, because again, it's a big one, but we wouldn't call it the big summer read if it wasn't. Anyways, hop on in with us. There's plenty of time. If you have things you have to say, you can email us, dreamfactorypodcast@gmail.com. and let us know your thoughts, and we'll keep you guys updated throughout the summer as we continue to read. So here is Jason and I talking about part 1, chapters 1 through 35 of Stephen King's The Stand, our big summer read 2025. All right, big summer read. It's been happening. We're at chapter 34, which was 300 pages almost exactly.
Yep.
That's the serendipitous nature of literature, isn't it?
That it happened to be like we just decided that we were going to divvy it up into manageable chunks. And lo and behold, it's actually like a good cutoff point. Yeah, I agree.
Do you ever read things and you're like, I'm going to stop when I get to page 100 and I hope that it ends on this chapter, and it always does?
Oh, no.
Oh.
Because I'm always such a slow reader. And so it's like, I'm going to get to some point where it's like, I just have to put it down. Yeah. But that's cool. You found that.
I've wondered if the publishers like intend for their stuff to end like on certain page marks.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Because you talk structurally about how a book is supposed to have, maybe like 3 acts or so, that you've got your opening, you got all that. So if we did cut it off here, I guess that does make a pretty good 3-act kind of chunk for the book. The 1994 miniseries cut it up into 4 parts.
Oh, okay.
And part 1 ended just before where we stopped.
Really?
It ends with Stu escaping Stovington. And part 1 is called The Plague. And then part 2 is called The Dreams. Mm-hmm. And right there is about when the dreams start showing up. And right after that, Nick is having his dreams and everybody else too.
There's brief mentions of dreams. Like, I think Nick is the first one that has a dream, right?
He's the second.
Oh, okay.
Stuart on page 111 has the first one. Okay. Just a hint of being in the cornfield. And then Nick is the second one. And I wanted to ask you if you thought there was a reason why. Like, why have Stuart or Nick be the first ones to have it?
Do you think that Stuart is because he's one of the first people that we've met?
Oh, that's a good idea.
I wonder.
That's a good idea. Yeah. He is. He's like the first of the main characters that we meet. Mm-hmm. And so if Stephen King leads off with him, like, why? That was a question I had for later on, so I don't know if I should spoil it now. But like, is Stuart supposed to be the main character?
I don't know. For some reason, I really gravitate to Larry.
Me too.
I really do, though.
I know.
And he's not really that good of a guy.
No.
But I really do gravitate to him. Because I was actually thinking that last night. Like, who is the main character of this? And I kind of think it was like, I gravitate to Larry the most for some reason.
Before I tell you my reason, why don't you tell me yours? Like, why do you think Larry more than the others?
I don't know. I don't know if it's like the musical aspect of it, you know.
Okay.
I think I think I've mentioned this before. My dad was kind of in the music industry for a little while, and he was talking about Larry was talking about like people he had met in LA and like I guess kind of the women he had gone through, you know, and it reminded me a lot of stories my dad had told me about when he would go to LA and like the people that he would meet and the women that he would meet, you know. So I don't know if like from the get-go I was kind of like, this in a sense reminds me of my dad. I think my dad is a much better person than Larry is, but I don't know if that aspect of it, because I know that this was supposed to be set in the 90s, but King wrote this in the late 70s, and that's when my dad would have been doing his touring and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's the reason why. I also think too that for some reason in Larry, I see redemption, like redemptive qualities, you know, like he goes back to his mom. Also, when he... Well, this is past chapter 34. This is kind of where I'm at now. But, you know, he's had that relationship with Rita. Yeah. And she's just died. And I don't know. I just think that he's got redemptive qualities, you know. So I don't know. Maybe that's a long answer to your question.
No, I love that. So the main characters that we have so far, which it begins with Charlie Campion, who runs away. Project Blue in a secret military base in California in the desert. An engineered virus escapes and kills almost everybody in the base except for Charlie Campion, who runs away with wife and baby. And he makes it halfway across the country before he crashes into a Texas gas station. And the 4 people there that encounter him now are sick with plague. And they spread it to others. He spreads it to others. And the country is quickly crumbling apart. You have main character first, Stu Redman, who meets him at Arnett, Texas. Then you have Fran Goldsmith, who's a college girl in Ogunquit, Maine, who has just recently found out she's pregnant, and she and her boyfriend are not getting along so well. She's told her dad. He wasn't excited about it. She told her mom. She flipped out. And now Franny's trying to figure out, how do I fix anything, including me? Then you get Larry Underwood, who is a one-hit wonder rock star. He's finally made it big. Everybody in the country is singing his song. Yeah. Whether you know it or not, everybody in the country is singing his song. And he's also let all that fame and stardom go to his head, and now he's bankrupt. And so he crosses the country once again, comes back home to New York, and is trying to hide out with mom. Who else am I forgetting? Oh, yeah, there's Nick Andros. Nick Andros is a deaf-mute 22-year-old boy in Arkansas who gets beat up by a bunch of good old boys and spends the night in a jail cell, only to the next day befriend the sheriff, and then they round up most of the good old boys. And then by this point, the country's falling apart.
And then you've got, what's his name? He's with Polk.
Oh, yeah. I always forget about that. Yeah. Lloyd Henry. Lloyd Henry, who is a recidivist criminal that just got out of a Nevada prison, only to turn around with his friend Polk and start a killing spree after annihilating a guy named Gorgeous George.
Well, they didn't kill him. They pokerized him.
And he's gone on a tri-state killing spree and now is trapped in a Nevada prison.
Do you know who those 2 characters reminded me of? The 2 guys in Cold Blood.
Oh, yeah.
They reminded me a lot of them, actually.
That's a really good idea.
Because you kind of have the same aspects. You had one who was, I don't know if he was intelligent or not, but then another one was kind of more simple, you know? And then he got to the murder trial and one was like, I didn't do any of the killings. I shouldn't even be here, you know? And that kind of reminded me a lot of
turning on
those
each other.
Yeah.
Well, now the country is dying. Like 70% of people in the country are dead. And that's the main characters that we have so far. So Stuart Redman is the first one that appears. And my gut always told me that he was supposed to be main. But I agree with you. I think Larry is probably, out of the ensemble, one of the more main characters.
I think so. Why do you think that?
I feel like Stephen King spends a lot more time developing him in all of his nuances. Stuart is a good guy, but what is Stuart struggling with beyond being held captive?
I think Stuart is, like you said, he's captive in a just completely different world. You know, he was moved from basically Houston to Atlanta, which is different, but not so much different.
Right.
But then he was moved to Vermont, and
Right.
he even talks about that. He was like, "This place is strange."
He says it's way too green for this time of year.
Yeah, and he's just kind of like a duck out of water,
Yeah.
I guess.
But I mean, he's a little bit haunted by the death of his wife years ago when she died of cancer. He is haunted by the death of his town and his friends, the only people that he's ever really known. And Hap calls him old time tough, that he's just, he's like this Western guy. He's a good old boy that's, he's always stuck it out. Stewart will always make it through. But what is Stewart really struggling with? Larry, on the other hand, really struggles. He knows he's a taker. He's always been that kind of kid who's always going to take. He's selfish. He uses other people. He uses his mom. He uses his friend Rudy. He uses that girlfriend Yvonne. And now he's using Rita. He knows that girl who told him, "You ain't no nice guy."
Oh, yeah.
That really sticks with him.
Yeah, it does.
And when Wayne Stuckey tries to talk to him and say, "Man, your friends are leeching off of you. You're being an idiot with all of this money. You've spent everything. These drug dealers and people are going to come kill you. You need to get out and get yourself together." People will try to talk sense to him about this personal character conflict, but Larry's just kind of haunted by it and still not getting over it yet. But something that I always try to tell kids in class when we talk about crisis, because you ask, can people change? I think, yes, people can change, but they have to want it. And usually we're such creatures of habit that I don't know that people can change until they get a bloody nose, until there's a major crisis in your life that forces you to want to have to change. Because otherwise you're just going to keep sliding back into your own bad habits. Well, Larry has that now because the country's falling apart and everybody that he's always relied upon is taken away from him. And he's haunted by that character flaw. You ain't no nice guy. So there's a chance for him, to be a good guy or continue being bad Larry. And I bet you readers probably you see a lot more of yourself, no matter who you are. You see your dad in Larry Underwood. Yeah. And I can see me and I can see my brother and I can see people in Larry Underwood. Stewart is a good guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's a lot of...
I don't know. I was just sitting here thinking, if I had to pick the two protagonists, I think Fran is probably the other one that I would pick. I think Nick is there to, I don't know, I almost think he's like the complete opposite of Lloyd. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like, which I'm only 34. Well, at this point, I'm 41 chapters into it, but I know that Nick has this past a little bit, but he seems like he's just so inherently good, you know? And we're getting a little ahead, but he's even had the dream where the dark man's come to him and he goes to the lady on the porch and he says, "How do I tell him no?" You know? So he wants to say no to that.
Yeah.
Where Lloyd was just ready to, "I'll do whatever you want me to do," you know? Yeah. And I think Lloyd is, like I said, I'm really early on, so I'm making predictions here, but I feel like Lloyd is probably just to progress the plot a little bit, to move on the dark man side of things. Does that make sense? So I guess for me, like you were saying, those characters are probably the most developed, would be Larry and Fran.
Yeah,
and then,
I agree with that.
And then probably Stewart after that, as far as development goes. So.
Every time I read this, I feel like I'm supposed to find connections between the main characters, and even though they're like states and half a country apart from each other, but I constantly find more parallels between Larry and Fran. They both have mother issues. Yeah. Stewart doesn't, Nick doesn't, Lloyd doesn't. They both feel kind of isolated, if not captive or haunted by what's going on with them right now. But Stewart's just, he's a captive. Nick, I don't know that Nick feels haunted either. He wants to do right by the dead sheriff and Janie. And then he's kind of surrounded by darkness and deafness and everything. But I don't know that he was really haunted by any of his choices or anything. Yeah. But Larry and Fran, I feel like have a lot of connection brewing for them.
Yeah, I think so too. I wonder if Stewart is the origin, if that's why he hangs, like we were talking about earlier, he hangs around more because he's the origin. We can track this whole progress through him. Do you know
that's
what
a
I'm
cool
saying?
idea.
So I don't know.
That's a cool idea.
Because it has moved. It moved from, like we said, it started in Arnett to Atlanta to Vermont, you know, and each stop along the way has been like military chaos coming in behind it. So maybe it's like this progressive destruction as Stewart moves along. So
Stewart takes it with him.
way to go, Stu.
Way to go, buddy. You would have a lot more insight on this than I do, but you brought me an Elmore Leonard book.
There it is.
And I was telling you that in the 1994 series, when Stewart's in Stovington, in his jail cell hospital room, he's reading an Elmore Leonard book. He's from East Texas. He's often called East Texas by characters in the book, right? An Easterner. But he's from this small rural town. He's a very quiet man, right? He's the quiet man. Do you think Stewart is like an archetypal Western character?
I think so, yeah.
Like it's cowboy or what?
Yeah, it's not surprising to me at all that you've got this Texan who is just very stoic, very hard-nosed. I'm thinking about whenever they come in there to do his blood pressure. He's like, I'm not taking my blood pressure till you tell me what's going on. You know, I was not surprised at all that Stewart was the person to do that. So I know that I'm getting ahead here, but I was interested when he connected with the professor and they were so complete opposites, and yet he's like enjoying his time with him, you know? So, but yeah, no, I think that whenever King first introduced the characters at the gas station and he mentioned Stewart was like very quiet and hardly spoke, you know, I knew he was going to be the one that survived out of the group. I knew that he was going to be the one that we were going to stick with out of the group. I think with Hap, there was a time where I thought that might be the guy, but I think maybe King was trying to get us to think he was the guy. So when he did die, it was kind of like oh man, Hap's dead. I don't know, but I wasn't surprised whenever Stewart was the guy, because like you said, that's just like a typical cowboy. You know? Yeah. Don't take no crap. Very quiet. But he's like inherently good, you know. I think that Stewart's a good guy, so
and a reader.
Yeah,
because that always kind of surprised me too.
Cowboy thing too, because you hear about like cowboy poets and things like that, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a cowboy thing too. I wonder what Leonard book he was reading in the show.
Oh, I got to go back and look now. Because in the book, it doesn't say that he was reading an Elmore Leonard book. He remembers reading Watership Down by Richard Adams. Have you ever read that? Oh, that was a weird, but a spooky kind of book too. Yeah. And I think it really fits with this. One of the rabbits, it's about a community of rabbits.
Rabbits.
Yeah.
Lloyd has rabbits.
Yeah. A pet rabbit he forgets and starves.
What's up with that?
Yeah. And that really haunts Lloyd too, because he forgot about that rabbit that he really wanted to keep. And then it was like 2 weeks later, it just kind of dawned on him, I got to go feed that rabbit. And it's all dead in the cage. And now he's trapped in a cage feeling like I'm going to starve like that rabbit. Huh. But yeah, it's a weird book about this whole warren of rabbits. And one of them has a dream that something terrible is coming and it's going to be an end of the world scenario for all of them. But nobody in the warren wants to listen to him. Matter of fact, the muscled up soldier rabbits kind of like cordon him off and say, if you mess things up for us, we're coming after you.
This is like the first part of what
I know.
Read. Yeah.
And so he and a few others escape from the mean, tyrannical overlord of the rabbits and all their soldier rabbits. And only one soldier rabbit escapes with them. And when they leave the warren, they pass by a big sign that they can't read. But the sign says the future development site of some big building. So humans are going to come along and just completely eradicate it. But yeah, it is kind of like The Stand in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuart Redman, cowboy, good guy.
Cowboys too.
Was there, I'm looking at this through a different lens now because of you, because I've known this book for 30 some years, but you're the first time reader and you thought maybe Hap was going to be the guy in Arnett to live, but then you figured out it was Stu. Did you have any other expectations for other characters so far that have kind of surprised you?
I don't think I've had like surprise as far as characters go. I feel like that they've kind of developed more in the pattern that I was expecting, but it's just such a large book. You know, I don't think that it's really time for any surprises just yet. I will say this though, I have enjoyed the book. I didn't know what to expect because I've never read Stephen King before, and I know my brother had read Holly, is that what it is?
Oh yeah,
he didn't like that. So. Okay. But that's one of his newer ones, so I don't know if there's a difference in modern Stephen King and
probably
beginning. Or
I do think this is the good stuff. The old stuff is the good stuff.
And I love Hannah Randolph in the books she's given me, and she gave me Imaginary Friend by Chbosky, and that was supposed to be like an homage to Stephen King, so I didn't know if like I was dipping my toes into that or not, and it's not been anything like that, to be honest with you. So I've enjoyed it.
Cool.
I think on one episode you asked me what my expectations were, and I was like, I have no expectations, and I don't. I still am just like going through it as it goes, Cool. And it's been fun. So yeah.
I remember you saying that in Between Two Fires, you felt like there were times that you were really bothered by the horrific, like monstrous parts to it, but also like the good and evil, heaven and hell parts to it. Have you felt at all bothered by any of that so far?
No, I don't know. I do like elements of supernatural, and I think that it's been honestly so far just the right amount of touch to it, you know, and I'm getting into the dreams and stuff. And the Dark Man is an interesting character to me, which I have something when we talk about that, the next part about him that I've noticed. What do you think about the what I talked about earlier, the motif of the consequences, like just one little mistake, because it was talking about how Campion, that was one thing that they keep going back to. If we would have hit that alarm or whatever just a couple of seconds earlier, then this would have been contained, but because we weren't doing our job, and like he just happened to look up at the right time, because they were kind of talking about how he wasn't really doing his job either, and he looked up like right at the right time, and just like all these little things so far. It's just something that like continues throughout the book, is just like these little oversights, this little complacency is what it really is. They're complacent. They think that everything's fine, and all of a sudden it's kind of like oh no, we've really messed up here.
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't want to say too much.
No, it's okay.
But I know that there's going to be several major parts later on that, you should have seen this coming, and people were being complacent about it, even though we have just come through the greatest tragedy humanity's known so far, and y'all are still just making mistakes. So probably that's supposed to be a comment that humans are going to be like this, even if we're reduced to 1 out of a million. The remainder are going to still be making mistakes because humans are blind. I like that he reinforces that with General Starkey in the early parts, because Starkey is supposed to be this uber capable general who idolizes Blackjack Pershing, and he's standing in front of all of these monitors. His character is kind of like the face of the military combine, and you can watch and watch and watch. You can organize, you can hold on until it burns, but like you didn't contain any of this. You guys let Dr. Eswick make this bug. Like he even says that, somebody made this bug and gave him a Nobel Prize. Like, where was the forethought that this was definitely going to get out somewhere? Starkey even pontificates about the poet. He calls him Yeats.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a great way of saying you think you know poetry, but you don't even know how to say the guy's name. Have you ever read Yeats's poem, Second Coming?
No, but you've quoted it a few times here on the show.
It is a grim, creepy poem. I remember after reading this, finding it in one of my high school textbooks and reading it during class. And boy, that's a haunter.
Yeah.
And Yeats, I know, wrote it because he's thinking ahead to, after things like World War I are over with, that there's going to be this massive upheaval in human consciousness, that we are going to go through such a traumatic human changing experience like World War I or super flu, that some consciousness in all of us is going to have to overturn. And his hope or his expectation is not that there's going to be this great Christian revelation where Jesus comes back and saves us. His expectation is humans are a lot more destructive than that. And I don't know that he feels as hopeful about it, because he calls it some rough beast that's slouching toward Bethlehem this time to be born. Christians had their shot with Jesus the first time, and now Yates is expecting it's going to be something darker this time around. So here's General Starkey quoting that. But still, you can sound as wise as you want to, but you weren't capable of, creating or solving anything. I have not watched the 2020 version of The Stand, but I have seen clips. And one thing they did different is that when Charlie Campion runs out of his control office there and says, I almost got snapped in half by that maglock door. They change it so that it's not just hanging open, that when he ran out, they show a boot heel of somebody holding the door open just long enough for Campion to get out.
Oh, wow.
As if Randall Flagg was there in his boots, unseen, holding the door open to let chaos start. I know that when Stephen King first wrote this, you said back in the 70s, right? One of the Kickstarter ideas for this was a really bad experience where some sheep, it was like an entire herd of sheep, were found dead because of, I think, anthrax or something that got out. And it was a big deal in the news. And here's this example of what if that had been a town? And if that town had communicated it to others, like what if? And so I know that was in his head somewhere. I don't know. I feel like this same sort of thing still haunts us, though. This idea of, is the American government doing things that they think, oh, we're the mighty American government, we're, leader of the free world, and yet are we being wise and thoughtful about the things that we're doing?
I just kept thinking this whole time that I was reading this first part, how much it just kept reminding me of the pandemic. So much of it was so similar. Just the quick spread, the containment, because
or lack thereof.
Right? Yeah, but I think I mean like with information.
Yeah.
Because I know that the president is getting on saying, "Hey, it's not that bad. Y'all just need to calm down." I think one thing that it said was that the president was going to go on and give the American public a spanking.
Yes.
And I can remember, I feel like that is what the president at that time in real life during the pandemic thought he was doing, because it would be like, no, this isn't that big of a deal. It's not as bad as they say. You need to listen to me, And then it was kind of like people, as they are in the book, started to not swallow that lie. It was kind of like, this is bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like that it's just been so relevant to, that's what I told you before. Like, it just makes me wonder if just this is humans. This is how we are, because it's so relevant to everything that we've gone through with the past 5 years, from the pandemic to the things that have been happening recently, just so relevant. It was just kind of eerie to me how, but to me, that's the mark of a book that's going to have staying power. We talk about that a lot. That's going to be relevant to people in 100 years, because I do think that this is human nature, to be honest with you. And it all boils down to power. Who has power? I want power. And that's kind of like you were saying, we want to think that our government would not, but it's power, and anytime you have people have that power lust, you get that greed that seeps in, and you just take it one step too far. And I think that that's kind of what King's been talking about, right? Like we've gone one step too far, and we've been complacent in that next step, and that's what's caused us to revert back to this. And that's what I keep saying. I just think it's really relevant to society.
There's a lot of mistrust, I think, by characters in the book who do not trust what the government says, do not trust, or are fearful of, why is there a military presence? They don't feel comforted by the thought of a military presence. They feel afraid of, which there are troops.
That's what's going on.
We're going to sneak out of town. And I can remember when I first started teaching back in 2007, I was talking about something about trusting your government or trusting your leadership. And I remember asking my seniors, how many of you, think that your government is doing in your best interest? And they were immediately, no. And so many of them, even still now, are pretty jaded about the idea that your government is working in your best interest. And yet I will ask them, okay, well, how would you vote for this, or how would you pick for this? And they'll still go with the ones that are not. They would point to and say, well, that's not in my best interest, but I'm still going to vote for them because. And I think you have troops in this book who are just going to blindly do whatever, like the Sergeant Peters, who goes into Ray Flowers' radio show and shuts down the radio show by killing the radio host and ordering his troops to do it. And if they back down, he's going to shoot his own troops. And immediately after, those same troops who just shot up the studio turn on him. Where were you before that?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you wouldn't have saved the entire ship, but you could have stopped this one radio guy from getting killed right then. And yet so many of us just go along with it.
It's this continual, like you're saying, of okay, we've gone too far, we've overlooked it, and now it's too late to do anything. You know, I'm thinking about when in the book, the Kent State rioters come up, and then the military kind of turns on itself in that, and it's like you said, it's too late now. You know, it's too late to do that now. I mean,
do you remember Kent State, the history with Kent State?
Mm-mm.
Oh, so there was a Vietnam protest there. There was an anti-war protest.
Is that the one where they would like right in their face, right?
Yeah, okay. And students got shot on campus, and there was a lot of media about that. And you can still go on Google and find pictures of students, screaming about this. And that feels eerily similar to this past weekend with protesters who are, they have their message of, we want this, we're going to be peacefully protesting, and there's immediately a lot of aggression by the other half of the country who's like, don't you show up, we'll put people in your face. Why are we further antagonizing?
Yeah. Well, and I also think about some things that I've seen from podcasters that are much bigger than us. who had influence on the way the election was. And, in their recent episodes, they've been like, we don't have space for these people on our show. And it's like, it's too late now. Like, you can't say that, We just had a guy that was in the White House for 3 months and caused so much chaos. Yeah. And now he's out and he's like, this is not a good idea. This bill is not a good, it's too late. Like you cannot step away and say, I'm actually with you, because it's like the people in the book. I think that maybe I'm hoping that if people are starting to say, we're not accepting this lie anymore, you know, and it doesn't matter if you're this celebrity podcaster or this tech entrepreneur, we're not listening to that. It's too late for that, so it's just it's been very relevant to the things that are going on, I think.
I think there's a lot of anti-Vietnam, anti-war sentiment to at least the beginning of The Stand. And I do think a lot of that does happen because he wrote the book in the late 70s. And so that's fresh on his mind too. In the epigraphs, you get quotes of songs. And one of them is where they scream out, "What's that spell? What's that spell?" And I can remember, I never heard that song before this year. I never heard it before this year. But I always remembered it in the cover of the book and thinking, is that some band singing about magic or something like that? Like, what's that magic spell or something? No, it's a protest group who's singing this song, and it sounds like a protest chant. What's that spell? What? And when you hear it, man, you do kind of feel like you're in the early parts of The Stand where people are rebelling. So this mistrust of how Vietnam was handled, this mistrust of how the super flu was handled, we are pretty mistrustful of how our government, of how Americans handle things.
But that's what I keep saying though. I just think that that's how it's always been. Yeah. I really do. I think
ever since our revolutionary days.
I really think that though, I mean, we've gotten in this pocket on our show and are reading lives, I guess, where we're kind of been stuck in the Civil War a little bit. But even that, that. And then some of the stuff I've been reading now is post-Civil War, and both sides are like, wow, we don't trust what our government's doing, or they're not doing enough, or they're doing too much, I just think that that's Americans.
Yeah. I've been reading A People's History of the United States, and even from the very earliest chapters, they talk about Bacon's Rebellion. And here you've got all these people from Virginia who were establishing these landholds and farmholds, and people were not being given enough territory to settle. So they're like, well, go take Indian territory. So they're like mad about the Indians. They're mad about the whites who are not sharing land with them. And so Bacon's Rebellion is kind of like another big middle finger rebellion to all of them too. Even from the 1600s and before, Americans have been
I just think that's
doing that.
It reminds me of I don't know if we've talked about it on here, but the Australians are like, that was a prison colony, and I've thought this before. Our country was founded on rebellion. Is that not just bred into us to have that mistrust, that we're not being represented properly type of thing. I just think that has been America. I think that we've had periods where we've come together, but I think that that's just America, and we're just so much more attuned to it now because of the news. There's so many news stations, Twitter, Facebook, social media is what I should say. Everybody has a platform. Look at us. We have a platform.
That's right.
So I just think that's just something that I kept thinking the whole time is this is human. These are humans. This is us. This is America. This is who we are.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day when I was reading that if these characters were coworkers at the high school, General Starkey, General Creighton, whoever this fictitious president is, I would not get along with them at all. And they're not generals or presidents. They're co-teachers at this school. I would not get along with them because they're working behind the scenes and they think they're in charge of everything, but they're making terrible decisions that are affecting me. And when I find out about it, what have they done but try to ruin me to keep me from talking about it, and then glaring at me from across the room when I call them out on it. They are such rotten, terrible people in charge of an institution.
Yeah. It's just a power grab, I think, is kind of what it turned into. And then, I don't know, the cover up, it's just very...
But that's what makes our show stand out among the other big time shows, is because we ask the hard questions and have the hard conversations, just like Stephen King's book.
That's right. Can I put this on my professionalism?
I think we should.
Did you put it on yours? I know you
did.
Did you? I was wondering if you did when I was filling mine out, and I was thinking, should I put?
Why not?
I should have.
I'm going to add it for my 6 hours of optional in service. That's what I'm going to do.
Oh man, what's something else that you want to talk about?
This is kind of a stupid topic. Baby, Can You Dig Your Man is Larry Underwood's big hit song. It has catapulted him to the top of the charts. And I don't know, it shows up over and over again. People who have never met Larry are singing it.
Yeah.
He drives down the street and he hears it playing in old Sam Goody's, right, in 1990. Yeah. And you hear it everywhere. It's on everybody's radio. Mm-hmm. And I love that characters who have never even met him are singing it. And it's like, you don't even know,
who
how
he is.
Interconnected you are to other people. What do you think Baby, Can You Dig Your Man should sound like?
Well, he talks about how he sings it's like a soul song,
because he was shocked that it appeared on Soul Train.
Yeah, I know.
He was kind of just like, what?
Well, everyone keeps commenting on that it's like black music, and stuff like that. I don't know. I guess I'm thinking of like maybe like a Chuck Berry type thing or something like that.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking of.
That's a good idea.
I do wonder if there's something to that. I've thought that too about how I guess people are identifying his race improperly based off how he's singing, you know, and he's just kind of like fluidly moving about in this society, and no one has any. Even the girl that you were talking about that throws a spatula at him, he tells her that's me, and she doesn't really believe him because she's like, "That's not okay. Whatever you say, you know." I wondered if like, I mean, you have to think that King's trying to say something about that, you know, but I don't know.
What about, it's kind of also like these celebrities who get seen out in public. The guy from The Bear, I can't remember his name.
Oh, yeah.
But I saw a video of him the other day where somebody was filming him, and the guy next to him said, "Hey, have you ever seen The Bear? You look just like that guy." And he was like, "Oh, hey, I appreciate that," and walked on. Or people who see Elijah Wood and they think that he's Daniel what's his name from Harry Potter?
Oh, Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah. And they mix up and they'll see Daniel Radcliffe and say, "Hey, I loved you in Lord of the Rings."
Well, what's that one guy? His name's Frank Ocean, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, kind of like hidden himself from the public eye. And I saw a video where someone had come up on a crosswalk and they looked and they got their phone out and they were like, "Hey, Frank." And he kind of like does like that. And they're like, "You're Frank Ocean." And he's like, "I'm not Frank Ocean." And the guy's like, "Yeah, you're Frank Ocean." And he's like, I don't know who, I mean, people tell me that all the time, but I'm not Frank Ocean. And then like the crosswalk thing, and he starts and they go, "See you, Frank."
What a Larry Underwood moment.
Yeah.
I just always kind of wondered about that. Like, what's it supposed to sound like? I do know that for the 2020 version of The Stand, they changed Larry Underwood's character to be a black guy.
Oh, okay.
Because he had been portrayed as white in the first one in '94, and this time they went ahead and made him a black guy.
Which is fine, but I just wonder though why you would do that, because like I said, I feel like Stephen King has intentionally made it that way. Do you know what I'm saying?
So it does negate some of that irony.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, the only reason why I care that irony is there is because we're splitting Larry Underwood as a character. Old Larry is the rock star who was a user and a taker and a bad guy, not a nice guy. But if Larry has what you said, redemption, if he's got a shot at it, then new Larry, good Larry, has to divorce himself from that. And so if we aren't even sure, like you're a white guy, but you sound like a black guy. Are you this rock star or are you not? Who are you? Like, that's the only reason why I care about who is the real Larry Underwood. But I have heard the version of Baby Can You Dig Your Man that they made for it.
I did too.
Oh, in 2020?
It wasn't what I was expecting.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily hate it, but it is not what I expected at all.
Well, I was assuming that it was a real song because everything else was a real song. So when it kept coming on, I don't like when songs are in books. I don't like that because I'm thinking about like Lord of the Rings, you know, when the elves and the hobbits and all of them they're all singing. I don't know how this, what tune am I going to here? So I don't like it whenever that comes up because I don't know how to read it. And so I'd heard Don't Fear the Reaper. That was an easy one. There's another song that came up and I was like, yeah, I know that song. But then Can You Dig Your Man kept coming up and I was thinking, well, I don't know. I've never heard this song, so I'm going to go back and listen to it. And that's when I figured out that's how I figured out that was like Larry's song, is because that was the only place that I had found it was that 2020 recording. And I thought, that's not what I think that this would sound like. So
there are some other ones that I think I like better, but yeah, there are so many fan-made versions that are out there too that just don't sound great.
I had found a few of those on Spotify, but I had determined that these were like bad covers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The one from the 94 series is always going to stay in my ear. I don't think it's great or anything, but it's always going to be the one that I think of.
I've not heard it, so I'll have to
send it to you sometime.
Yeah, I'll have to go and watch it. I'll have to go watch that.
Maybe the 94 series?
Yeah, maybe, I was planning on doing it, but now that you've said that it's like divided up like it is, I would like to try to do that.
It is kind of divided up into like the 4 sections that you have picked. Yeah, that's good.
We live in a simulation.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I really think that whoever's running the Matrix has just been replaying Andor season 2 and parts of The Stand for us.
I don't know. A lot of my stuff was centered around the COVID stuff. Just, again, I said this quote to you where it says a coup in India, power station blown up in Wyoming, Supreme Court was expected to hand down a decision on gay rights. That's where I put maybe America and the world is just constantly in turbulence, Yeah. That's a lot of my notes is just how relevant I kept finding the whole thing,
Also the characters, because he brings up news reports over and over in here. Stu watches the news. Nick watches the news. Larry doesn't watch the news, but he calls that girl back in LA and she says, well, on the radio, they're saying this. So it's like, even in 1990 America, there's all these different voices that are telling you. Something that I appreciate that Stephen King does with it in his uncut version of it, is that he gives you all these extra pieces and they do weave in background details. Cause Larry is tending to his mom, the day she gets sick. The Today Show was on, and that's when they're giving the three things, that there was a power station in Laramie, Wyoming that blew up and a landmark decision about gay rights. Well, most of that stuff is just like background noise, but the Laramie power station shows up elsewhere. And then when you finally meet the Dark Man, you find out, he was there. He was one of the instigators of this. So it's like all of these background details kind of do matter. You talk about there being, just these numerous tiny details that we're not paying attention to that really overall do matter. Also, I like that Nick says you don't have to be able to hear the news to hear the news, because sometimes it's what they're not showing or what they're focusing on. That they barely even said anything about the weather. They didn't show any infographics or anything. And he's like, maybe the meteorological service isn't working anymore. Maybe, if you pay attention to the guys who keep looking to the side, there's soldiers there that are training weapons on them saying, read this. So I appreciate those bits of news because they do kind of fill in the gaps for what's really going on.
Yeah. Do you think Nick is our blind man protagonist or archetype? I mean, do you think?
Why?
Well, he can't hear or speak, and like I said, I think that he's inherently good. I think he's probably our best, as far as what am I trying to say? Most innocent character, I guess, just purely good. That's what I'm trying to say. He's just purely good out of all the characters. So I didn't know if he was kind of the example that we're having. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. That's something I've been trying to figure out. Why is he deaf and mute?
Well, a lot of times in our literature, when you get the blind character, they may be physically blind, but they can see beyond a physical kind of sight. So it's like they see the truth of things that the others aren't necessarily there for.
And that's what made me think about that again, is because you were talking about how he was thinking about the people off screen and things like that, So I wonder if he can see things that these other, he has to. So he has to be that archetype.
Yeah. It reminds me of how when you go back through the Bible and you find why are these players the major players? Why did God pick people like Moses? He's just a baby. He was born and no different than me. And because of his circumstances, his people had to put him on the water and send him out. And God sent him to Pharaoh. He was raised up in a mighty palace. And then one day given this awful task of, hey, you feel caught between the people who raised you and the people who really rightfully are your people. And here's my task for you, Moses. Why is God picking certain people over others? What is Moses equipped with that maybe other people aren't equipped with? So I think that's a good way of looking at Nick Andros. In what ways is he equipped better than other people? Why were some people immune to this virus?
Right. Which, I think that's still, talking about the relevancy, I think that's still a thing that they're researching right now, is why were some people immune to COVID, you know? I know that I have not tested positive for COVID. I think that I've had it, but every time I've gone and taken a test, it's been negative, And
me too. That's weird.
So this whole time I've been thinking, I'm not worried about this. I would survive the stand.
I know the summer before COVID hit. So this was summer 2019. We went on a trip to Maryville, and the day we got there, we were going to be there a week. It was just us. It was great. And the day we got there, I got sick, and it was a respiratory thing that had me down for days. And I don't remember ever being that sick with a chest cold that even like sometimes you still kind of feel like, do I have repercussions of it? And then that following spring, we hear about COVID and all of the symptoms of it. And it made me wonder, is that possible that you had something like that? Because that was 9 months before that ever
But I think that was a question people kept bringing up, because I know that my brother did that too. And there was like a small, when everything kind of first started, people were like, we've already gone through this, haven't we? I've never tested positive for strep.
Oh,
I've never my kids have gotten strep a couple times, and it's like, I don't know what to do because I've never had strep.
Well, in the book, the doctors at Atlanta say that the only things that they can find about Stu are that he's got numerous moles. He's got a higher than average density of moles on his body, and he dreams a lot. And all the characters who are survivors so far have continued to say, I always used to have these vivid dreams. Nick always used to have vivid dreams. Even Lloyd used to have vivid dreams. So maybe there's something, I don't know. Do you dream a lot?
I had a vivid dream just the other night.
That's what it is.
And I was going to tell you about it, and I will later. But I remember you telling me that I would dream about The Stand, and I keep waiting for last night was the first night that I went to bed thinking, I'm about to see The Dark Man.
Oh, God.
I'm waiting for it. So.
It doesn't happen so much in part one, so we'll probably talk about more later. But, I mean, I think the reason why you call it The Stand, it really starts to show up with the dreams and how they respond to crisis in part one.
Yeah.
And also how you respond to those elements of your dreams.
Well, bleeding over into that second part, we talked about Lloyd. He accepted the Dark Man. Nick is trying to find a way to say no to him. Larry just outright rejected him, didn't he? Because he was alone in the tent because Rita has died and he's lonely. And that's what he was talking about, is how that was the worst part of her death, was he was alone now. And he can hear the boots scuffing,
Right.
and he thinks about yelling out, hey, I don't care who you are, just come over here and spend some time with me. But for some reason, he just cradles to his gun
because there's two different Larrys. There's good Larry and there's old Larry.
And I was going to say that too. And this is bleeding over a little bit, but I just read this last night, so it's fresh on my mind. I feel like that I went through like a marked character change for Larry, where he clips that truck on his motorcycle, and now he's going so slow.
Oh yeah,
he's gone so slow his bike stalled out.
Yeah,
and he's put on all the like protective equipment, and even when he puts his bike down, the book says he's not even sure if he's gonna come back to it or find another one. And I feel like that's like a mark right there. His character has changed, and so that's like symbolic of that.
Yeah.
Speaking of the dreams, Stuart had the corn dream. Nick had a dream he was in the corn as well.
That's right.
So you wanted to talk about the cornfields because I know like the children of the corn, right? But we have this like
I forgot about that.
What am I trying to say here? It's like an archetypal type thing where you've got this supernatural type thing. Typically, I feel like it's an evil supernatural, but the one that I'm most familiar with is Field of Dreams, and that's not an evil supernatural, but still the ghosts are coming out of the corn. Why has a cornfield been chosen for that?
I think it's because that's America. I really think that a cornfield, these vast cornfields, are iconic of the American heartland. And this book is supposed to be about America and Americans. It is about revealing who we are as humans. And if you want to get into a battleground, sometimes it's New York City, sometimes it's Las Vegas, Nevada. But really, you want to think about where's the battleground for America. It's our heartland, and that's our farm country. And what can be more farm country than fields of corn? You bring up that there seems to be a lot of like supernatural evil or darkness also connected with them, but also Field of Dreams. That's goodness, right? When Stuart first dreams about it, I think it's a good dream of being in the corn, but somewhere back there is darkness.
He feels like someone's following him or
Yes.
watching him. Yeah.
So as a kid who spent a lot of time growing up in farm country, Ohio, there are miles and miles and miles of cornfields. And we used to go into the fields and like try to get ourselves lost and then find your way back out, which they're rows of corn. Eventually you're going to do, and it's just a square. You find your way back around. But I'll tell you, if you can find a cornfield to get into this summer, go into the cornfield and immediately sound starts to dampen because of all the big leaves. And the further in you go, you can easily trick yourself into believing that there's somebody a row or two away walking alongside you. And you may, I don't know, Mary Beth may be 2 or 3 rows away from you, but you could trick yourself into thinking, I'm alone out here. I'm alone out here. Something's with me. Something's with me. And I always tell ghost stories about it to my classes. But yeah, cornfields can be a frightening place to be.
Yeah.
I think like you've already gotten into part 2, where when you come out of the cornfield, there's something good to be found there in the dream, right? Like Nick finds a good presence there. But lurking back in the darkness of all those leaves is something that's always lurking around, is the unknown, the mystery of what might be out there to come and get me.
Yeah. Yeah, you describing going into the corn, and especially like, I think it's different here because we have a lot of corn in Tennessee now. I was thinking about the last time I really like truly got deep into a cornfield. I was at Tim Mackey's house in a back field, and we were like having a bonfire, and we went back there, and you just saw these like, it was the moon was bright enough where you could see these corn chucks coming, like corn cobs, and we were throwing them at each other. So mature. But here it's a little different because you can it's like hilly and identify maybe a little bit where you're at. But I was thinking about the cornfields I've seen going through the Midwest.
Yeah.
How, I don't know, it's almost like claustrophobic feeling, even though you're in the middle of this vast space, you're closed in, you don't know where you're going.
Yeah. And if you could go out far enough and turn around, spin around, spin around, spin around until you disorient yourself, now find your way back.
Because especially in like you were saying, like the flat heartland, there's no markers to, if I do that here in Tennessee in a field, I could probably look up and find a tree or something in the field nearby, you know, because our fields can't be that big because we have so many hills.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be.
And ours grow faster here because I know our corn's already up to like hip height
I've
already.
seen some tall corn.
And in Ohio, it was always supposed to be knee high by the 4th of July to make sure that it was going to be, you know, whatever. But yeah, ours is already up. But I don't know. Does ours actually get as tall as corn and some of the wide open?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel like ours is like finished by mid-July though.
Yeah.
It's like done.
And then dead and toasty by end of August.
Yeah.
He uses it in Children of the Corn.
Is that a Stephen King?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember watching that as a kid, too. That freaked me out.
I've seen parts of it.
Yeah.
I was young, so I turned it really quick. But
which, I mean, it is about the kids who go crazy and like, take care of the town. But there is supposed to be a presence walking, right? The one that walks among the corn. And that's referenced in here over and over in the dreams, like the shadow that walks in the corn with you. I thought that Peter Goldsmith, the dad, Franny's dad,
I liked him.
I really liked him.
I feel like that he handled that situation the way that I think that I would have handled it. He wasn't thrilled to death, but he was still going to stand by his daughter, you know, and he essentially was just like, I really don't care what you do as long as you don't kill it. Yeah. That was his kind of stance on the whole thing, you know.
Because for him, life is precious.
Yeah.
And it's way too easily discarded in this world, especially in a world where a government engineered plague is about to just take everybody out.
Well, he says something to his wife when Fran tells her mom that really stood out to me because, you know, the mom is so caught up in the grieving process still of her dead son, you know, which, I mean, I'm sure if we lost a child, we all would be in a process stuck like that. But her dad says to the mom, why would we not celebrate living? You're celebrating death. Let's celebrate a life, you know? And that just really stood out to me for some reason when he said that. You know?
Yeah, she gets caught with that parlor. What does he say? What's the line? That the clock keeps marking off segments of time in a dry age. Like nothing ever ages or changes in that parlor. It has always been that way. It is a time. It is a moment frozen in time because she can't let go of the past.
Even when he comes in, well, he won't come into the parlor.
No.
But even when he says something to the effect of this, we're going to celebrate this child. We're going to, if she wants to stay here, she can stay here. And the mom even says, this is where your dead son's coffin was, you know? And he was kind of like, I know that. So,
yeah. He actually gets pretty visceral about it too and says he's worm food.
Yeah, I know.
And I cannot imagine, even in my anger or my grief, saying that about my own child who died 20 years ago. You know, I cannot imagine.
I felt like it was very Shakespearean almost. You know, I was thinking about when Mercutio, he's like, they've made worm's meat out of me, you know. And I know that I've seen that in other parts of Shakespeare, but
I thought that he was a pretty, I don't want to say iconic, but he's a pretty good dad figure.
I think so.
If the mom, Carla, has the parlor, like that's her zone, and his is the tool shop.
Yeah.
And I like that Franny always thinks of it like the Hobbit hole, like that she could tuck her way back in through there and find herself in Bilbo Baggins' Hobbit home. And that Peter also would smoke in a pipe and sometimes blow the smoke in her ear whenever she had an earache. And it's like, how many times do you have to say he's like Gandalf, who's listening to you right now and he's here with you? I don't think you should make this choice, but I have to let you make this choice. And there's numerous times that I feel like there are Lord of the Rings elements.
Well, he
to this.
references it a few times. I think Rita even commented on something from Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
So I like that he brings that into it.
Yeah. Do you think authors do that to try to call those of us who have maybe read those pieces of literature to find the similarities in that so that we can kind of, I guess, make predictions and be more, I guess, immersed into what we're reading? Do you think that that's why they drop those in there?
Sure. I think it's also inescapable when you're so heavily well-read and you just constantly are making these comparisons in your own life, that you're helpless to do so in your own writing too.
Well, you were talking about the book that Stuart was reading in the novel, and how, I mean, that to me sounded like this book is an adaptation of that now, you know. Yeah. But also, I'm thinking of in James Joyce's Dubliners, there's a short story in that called A Painful Case, and when we go into Duffy's room, he's describing Duffy's room, and he talks about the books that he has on the shelf, which were not books that I had read. However, I taught that this year, so I was going back and looking into like symbolism and things like that, you know, because Duffy's room is a very clean place. It's very sterile. Joyce describes it as this is black and this is white. They're like so contrasting colors. And then he talks about there's like a little desk where Duffy writes, and when you open the desk, oh, guess what's inside? A rotten apple. Oh, do you know what I'm saying? And then he talks about the books on the shelf, so you know as you're going through this setting that's important. And so I just wonder, you know, obviously Stuart reading that book, King intentionally put in there, had to have. So I just wonder if your authors drop these little nuggets that totally makes
sense.
Okay, I know where we're at. Because you talking about him going back into the Hobbit, or she going back into the Hobbit hole, and then, well, her dad's Gandalf, you know, so we can attribute his character and connect him to this, so that when we do go back and think of this character, I guess we're thinking of just ultimately the best good you can think of.
Exactly. Without saying, you know, it's just like Gandalf when... Yeah. He also, because he gets upset and tells Franny when they're talking about that I have no business telling you how to deal with this because I'm an old guy and I should have been younger when I had you, but I was an old dad and I've always been old. And that immediately made me think of Atticus Finch trying to relate to Jim and Scout, and how he was always an older dad who couldn't go play football with him because I'm too old, Jim. And, I don't know. I think I probably pick up on that because I have kind of like cultivated old dad figures in my life with my grandpa, Atticus Finch. You know, you think of Gandalf, President Bartlett. I just kind of appreciate that kind of character.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked him as a dad.
Yeah.
Like I said, I hope that that's the dad that I would be whenever that situation. Or I would like to think that I would be that dad. You know.
What about her boyfriend, Jess Ryder?
What about him?
What'd you think of him?
Well, he's really. I mean, after she decides that they're done, he calls her from the hotel, and that's really it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. He's
such a poser. He's such a poser.
She says something in the book about him that I thought was really interesting about how he was sitting on the pier, right? And she's like, he's sitting there like he thinks people are watching him. And then she talks about how when she's leaving him, he's like holding his bike, watching her leave. And she's like, almost like he's posing. So yeah, for sure.
He's supposed to be a rich boy who wears, like Stephen King always brings up the blue chambray work shirts. And it's like, you're wearing the cheaper poor boy working clothes, but there's no way you're a cheaper working poor boy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a poser. I don't know. I didn't hate him, but whatever.
Yeah. He was just there for me.
He really was just there because we had to move on.
Well, I think he's there though, because now that Harold's involved, she's, I don't know, because when you're first introduced to Harold, he's like really scuzzy, you know? Yeah. And then last night I was reading and she kissed him on the mouth and she's very concerned with his safety, you know? Yeah. And so I was thinking about Jess actually last night because I thought he had to have been introduced for us to have a contrast for Harold to stack up against, you know?
Yeah.
Because Jess is supposed to be, from the way I read it, like handsome, kind of like the typical college guy, you know, like you said, he's dressed this way, but he's posing, which made me think of like people that I've met in college, you know, but she's apparently attracted to him because she sleeps with him and she gets pregnant. But then you have Harold, who's like disgusting. He's overweight. His teeth are nasty, you know, and she goes, and again, this is bleeding into part 2. She goes around to the back of his house and he's cutting the grass and his feet are nasty and he's sunburned and he's sweating and then he just starts crying, you know? And so they're complete opposites, but also the way that they like treat her. Do you know what I'm saying? The way that they treat her is completely opposite. So I wonder if Jess was introduced to get us going with Fran, to give us like some character development, but also to contrast with Harold. So I don't know, maybe we're cheering for him a little bit. Does that make sense?
You're cheering for Harold?
Harold, yeah.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Keep reading, because certain characters do idolize Harold Lauder.
Okay.
And Harold's supposed to be the brother of her best friend, Amy. But Amy didn't like her own brother. And Amy was the perfect...
The whole family didn't like him,
none of them.
Yeah.
And they were the perfect, picturesque, popular family. But then there's Harold. In the 1994 series, Jess is briefly mentioned, but he never appears in it. And you do see Harold right from the get-go when you first meet Franny. And I think that they combined Jess's character and Harold's character at the beginning, because Harold shows up and gives her a book of poetry. And I just had some poetry published. And here, I've bookmarked it for you. Would you read it out loud? And her dad, after he leaves, kind of mockingly reads it. I have bestrodden the world and stood at the... And it's like exactly what she thinks Jess would sound like when he's sitting there watching the ocean and he wants you to be looking at it right now. And then there's Harold Lauder.
Yeah.
This is the first year that Harold's really reminded me, because he's supposed to be a 16-year-old. And he really reminds me of some people that I know.
Oh, really?
I think for the first time, I see a lot of similarity between Harold and teenagers that I know in my experience as a teacher now.
I think that there's been something for me with Fran's, I guess her storyline has been hard for me to fully grasp, is that they are teenagers, you know, because she seems so mature. She's pregnant. Yeah. She's trying to survive. Harold's driving a Cadillac around, you know, and the way that she kind of talks about him, I guess you forget that they're kids, you know, especially you're talking about Harold being 16.
He says he's only got his learner's permit.
I know. He said that. Yeah. And it's just, I guess you forget that they're kids.
Harold would be one of my sophomores this year.
Oh, really?
Isn't that crazy? He would be one of my sophomores.
I thought you were
this year.
talking about like.
Oh, no. I'm just thinking because of his age, he got his learners and all that. Harold would have been at the age of one of my sophomores this year. That's crazy. That makes me think also, you bring up, oh, shoot, you had just said something. It was, you had brought up before that Lloyd was supposed to be like a counter parallel to somebody else.
Was it Nick?
It might have been. Dang it, I forgot it now.
I guess talking about this though, there are a lot of contrasts between characters and how they're set up, and I mean, obviously, it's got to be intentional.
Yeah,
because like I said, why is Jess there? Well, now that Harold's introduced, when we're first introduced to him, you don't want Fran to. I know when she kissed him, I was like, oh, Fran,
like why?
Yeah, I really was. But then he paints that on the side of the barn, and I don't know. The way that they describe him, you're grossed out by him. But then, I don't know, like when I finished up that last part of that where they're planning on leaving to Vermont, I just was thinking, like, maybe he's not that bad of a guy, So, I don't know. He had the complex family relationship. He talked about his dad didn't like him, and I think that that's what I'm saying. That's the only thing I can think of with Jess is his strongest point for this story is he's a contrast for us to mark Harold and say he's just so much different than him,
I was trying to think if there were any other characters we need to address real quick.
I don't think so.
No.
The Dark Man.
I'd never really read this collection of short stories. He's got a bunch of books of short stories, and one of them is called Night Shift. And there was a short story that he wrote in 79 called that was the book, Night Surf. Came from a 1969 magazine, and he submitted it as a short story there. And Night Surf features these group of teenagers on a beach while there's an apocalyptic scenario going on around them, and everybody's dying of a disease called Captain Trips.
Why was it called Captain Trips? I kept trying to figure that one out.
Well, you have all these different names depending on where you are in the country. Like the country people call it Tube Neck. Some people just call it Blue because it's Project
Super
Blue.
Flu. Yeah.
And then West Coast, they call it Captain Trips. Because what a trip, man, right? This is the captain of all of them. But you talk about COVID-19. We had so many different names for COVID-19. Yeah. And some people would get really stickler about it, and they would call it SARS-CoV-2 or whatever. Yeah. And then some people would call it the vid, and some people
coronavirus. That's what we all called it at first, was coronavirus.
Some people would call it Chinese flu. We all had different nicknames for it, right?
Well, they called it the Russian flu at one point in here, didn't they? Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, because there are different strains: Russian flu and London flu.
Yeah.
Which the flu, I never really thought about it before COVID-19 came around. But the flu was really only like 100 years old for us.
Well, that's what they were talking about in the book too.
Yeah.
He runs into, I can't remember his name. I just read him last night. The professor, though.
Glenn Bateman.
Yeah, Professor Bateman. He says, we don't realize it, but the flu's not that old. That's what he tells Stuart. So,
yeah. And it almost eradicated, so many people back then.
Who is it, though, in their dream, they see the Dark Man and they say, it's Captain Trips?
Oh, I don't remember.
Someone calls the Dark Man Captain Trips.
Ugh.
So,
well, he also gets a lot of nicknames, too.
Yeah.
And I guess we can save him for the next one, but the Dark Man's he's such an amalgam of like different fears, but I think he's a really good archetypal bad guy in a very American sense.
Yeah, I think so too. He's got the denim on. Yeah. He's got the cowboy boots.
If you ever go back to
walking the highways.
He says in his first appearance in whatever chapter that was, that these were his highways and he knew them. And that always reminds me of these short stories when you read like The Devil and Daniel Webster or some of these others, that the devil is a very archetypal American bad guy, and he's always walking the backwoods streets. You always meet him at a crossroads.
Oh, yeah.
He always walks alongside Goodman Brown. So he makes me think of that kind of character too.
Just traveling around.
With all his nicknames.
Yeah. I know who I'm going to say thank you as.
I forgot this.
I'm going to do Poke on one of his.
Oh,
he's
geez.
just snorted something.
Maybe I'll do Nick Andros.
I thought about doing that one too.
I don't know. You're gonna have to pick somebody for me because I don't know.
This is your story.
Oh gosh.
I'm going to try not to be too loud. We're in the study room in the library at Tech again.
That's true.
I have to be allowed to do Poke though.
I'm gonna pick. Oh God. I'm gonna pick Old Larry.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick Old Larry.
Who do you want to go first?
You.
Me. Okay. Whoop whoop. Thank you for listening. Now you're gonna get pokerized. Whoop whoop. How was that?
I love it. He needs to be dialed up in volume. I know we're in a study room, but yeah, Poke would just be shouting that out. Whoa, whoa.
He gets shot. Shot. Shot.
He got me, Larry. I can't even do this right. Well, you know them royalties. I didn't realize they were going to be so cheap on me and everything. But hey, I do appreciate that brown sound show do get around. And I love that y'all tune in for me. Hit me next time. We're going to be at the top. We're number 19 with a bullet. Check us out on all the major platforms right now. This is your man, Larry Underwood, saying thank you. Hey, if you're a fan of good conversations and fresh takes on literature and the kind of school stories that stick with you long after the bell rings, well, I've got a podcast for you. It's called With Honors, and it's where my high school students have taken the microphone, not just to analyze books or talk about our lessons, but to reflect on what we've learned this year, have conversations about what surprised them, how our literature and classroom experiences connect to their real lives. And we talk about everything from symbolism and Poe to the pros and cons of class pets, and all through the voices of smart, curious students who have learned to speak their minds. New episodes drop regularly every week, and everyone is a snapshot of what it looks like when students take ownership of their own learning and have a little fun while they're at it. You can find With Honors on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our YouTube channel, so check them out.